Hello, 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 everybody. So let me make sure that I can see this on my page. First of all, I don't ever go live on my personal page. Ever. I don't ever go live on my personal page because y'all know I'm on Facebook for business, right? But there's been so many things happening to me lately. I've received hundreds and hundreds of messages. I've received hundreds of emails, which is so crazy because I really didn't even realize the amount of impact I really have. And I said, you know what? It's time that I show up live and pretty much let everybody know what's been going on with me. Okay. So that is what I'm here to do, to let you guys keep you up, to date with the changes that has happened in my life. Hey, Renelli. Oh my God, girl, I saw your message too. It's just been so, Shirley. Hey, girl. It's just been so much happening. And being in the hospital for hey, Brielle. Hey, darling. It's been so much happening and being in the hospital for so long. Like, when you guys hear the story, you'll understand why I couldn't even get those messages. Because there's a lot going on with me medically. And so I just wanted to talk to you guys about that. Let me just make sure that I could see the comments fine. So, hey Linda, hey Beth, how are you doing, darling? So I think I'm going to start from the beginning. And then I'll lead up to what's happening, because many of you have been praying. Many of you have been, just supporting me. And this fight that I am in is just getting started, right? So the first thing that the doctors needed to do was get me stable so I can become outpatient. But my treatment and everything is just getting started. So my life pretty much changed instantly. I went into the ER for one thing. Turns out it was something else happening. And it's just been so much emotion around it. So let's start from the beginning, okay? So about 2 weeks ago, I started hearing my heartbeat in my left ear, all right? And so I'm hearing my heartbeat, okay? And it's like boom, 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 boom in my left ear. And I thought that was really weird. But because of COVID, and many of you can probably resonate with this, because of COVID, I was really scared to go to the ER, right? I didn't want to catch it. So I'm like, okay, well, let me call my mom. I called my mom. My mom have a few doctor friends, got on the phone with a doctor, spoke to her, and she thought that it could be sinuses. Now, I never really suffered with sinuses before. So, I said, okay, well, let me just go with what she's saying. Let's try it out. She recommended that I go to Rite Aid. I start doing this nasal flush and see what would happen. So I started the nasal flush, and what I realized, I forgot one thing. So I was hearing my heartbeat in my left ear, but I was also having a really bad headache. And so when I lay to the right, it felt like all the blood was rushing to the right of my head, and it was just like unbearable pain. If I lay to the right, the left, same thing. So I started the nasal spray, and it helped with the headache. So I started to think, well, she's right. I just have some type of, sinus thing that's just appearing, and it's working. But the heartbeat didn't stop. It didn't stop. So after about 8 days of doing this nasal flush and checking my pressure and all the things that she told me to do, I called her back and I said, listen, I really don't think that that's what it is. I'm still feeling the heartbeat. This stuff is still happening to me. And so she said, well, let's try steroids. Okay. So she called into the pharmacy, and she put in the steroids. I took steroids. Hey, Keisha, I picked up the pills. The first dose of taking the steroids, I started getting a glare in my eye. Okay. And when I say a glare, I got my water here. When I say a glare, it's like looking through water. Okay. Like that's what I was seeing. Now, I have suffered from migraines for many years. And so whenever I would get a migraine, it will always start with a glare in my eye. So when the glare happened, I just assumed that I was getting a headache. I took 2 Tylenols and I went to sleep. Boom, it's over. Next day, the Sunday, which was April 12th, the Sunday, I took the steroids again. I had a family Zoom. My family did like this Zoom thing in the night, and we played some games, and I was feeling good, y'all. I had my accountability session right after that with my clients, and about 5 minutes to the end of that session, the glare came back again. So, I'm like, okay, you know how you get this feeling like, wait a minute, this is not normal, right? Something is going on, right? So I didn't take Tylenol this time. I actually ran to the store with my son to pick up some headphones for him, and something told me to block my eye and really see what was happening, because it wasn't the same normal glare that I would get. So I covered my eye, and guys, when I covered my left eye, I couldn't see anything. I lost complete vision in my right eye. It was like dark, okay? So now, I'm freaking out, right? I said, okay, I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to wake up and hopefully this thing is gone. I go to sleep. I wake up about 4 o'clock in the morning. And when I woke up, I still couldn't see. I still couldn't see anything. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to the emergency room. So again, these little symptoms, I was going through like self-medicating and, listening to the doctor versus, and not a doctor that saw me physically, just someone on the phone, and listening, all because of my fear of going to the ER, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the hospital. So I live in Pennsylvania. Whoop, whoop. And I live in the suburbs, so I just feel like I'm blessed in so many ways, because if I lived in the city, I don't believe that I would have gotten the service that I got. But I live out in the county, and the county is a little bit different. I went to the hospital. It was no wait. Once they seen that there was no COVID-related symptoms, they took me straight to the back. And the doctor, he first did a CAT scan. The CAT scan came out clear. He did an ultrasound on my eye. First time I ever even knew that you can do something like that, right? He did an ultrasound and nothing. He can't see anything. So he's boggled now. And he's like, you know what, Miss Thorpe, I want to send you to Will's eye specialist in the city, okay? And so that's how I ended up in the city. So my visit, this started 7 o'clock in the morning, April 12th. By 2 p.m., they transferred me to Will's eye specialist in the city. So I get there, same thing. It was quick, 1, 2, 3. Got in the back, and now I'm with specialists, right? So they start doing all these different tests and looking, and they come to the conclusion that I was bleeding in my eye, okay? So I was bleeding in the back of the retina. So like right now I'm looking at you guys, and I still have partial vision in my right eye. So now they figured out it was bleeding. But the next question was, why am I bleeding in my eye? Right? So all the doctors, when I tell you every single doctor, they even called friends, people who they knew, to get advice, because they didn't never seen anything like this before. Right? And so finally, and that's another thing, again, I just have to keep thanking God that he sent the right people that was willing to go far and dig deep and not send me home until they figured out what was happening, right? So by that night, could have been about 8 p.m. at night. Remember, it starts at 7 a.m. in the morning. Now it's 8 p.m. and I'm still sitting in Will's Eye Specialist Center. Finally, the doctor came and he said, we can't figure out why you're bleeding, but we are going to admit you. Okay. So when you hear they admitting you, you're like, okay, it got to be something serious, right? So he said, we are going to admit you because we want to find out what it is that's happening. Okay. So right away, they call the ambulance. The ambulance comes to pick me up to take me over to Jefferson, which is the main hospital that this Will's Eye Center is a part of, right? Literally, the ambulance took me around the corner. And I'm still good, y'all, okay? And I'm just talking about my spirit. I'm talking about I was calm. I was just like, just waiting to hear what's going on, but I was calm. Get into the ER. When I get into the ER, this doctor comes, Dr. McBride. And she comes in. And everybody has the mask on their face, right? So you can only see their eyes. And her eyes just instantly, I looked at her eyes and she just looked so worried when she walked in. Now, I have 2 phlebotomists. I don't even want to show you guys my skin right now because I have black and blues everywhere. But I have 2 phlebotomists trying to get an IV in on one end. I have 2 nurses over here on the other side of me. They all moving fast, getting me changed, getting this stuff on me. Everything was just going so fast. And then this doctor comes in and all I could see is her eyes and she just looked so worried. And so I had my mother on speaker the whole time. And so she said, hey, Miss Thorpe, my name is Dr. McBride. We got you from Will's Eye Center and I just wanted to come in and just talk to you. So I said, okay. And I started feeling like this shivering on the inside. You ever feel like you're cold on the inside and you start shivering? It was just something like I felt something. So she said, the doctor from the eye center told me what was going on, that you have some bleeding in your eye, and I had a hunch. And so I took your blood and I put it under the microscope. And I want to tell you, you have leukemia. I'm trying not to cry. I have not cried about this. So I don't want to now because I have not cried about this. I've cried about other things, but I have not cried about the diagnosis. So she says you have leukemia. Okay. That when she looked under the blood, she saw leukemia cells. And the first thing I'm like, cancer? Right? So I'm trying to just think of how it just happens so quickly. So I said, am I going to die? That was the first thing I said. Am I going to die? She said, no, you're not going to die. I said, well, what's next? What are we going to do? I couldn't get into the whole sadness. It was like, if I don't know, I could just tell you my own experience. I did not get instantly sad. I did not get instantly mad. I did not anything. I just wanted to know, okay, what we doing? I got cancer. Okay, let's go. What's next? Right? So she started to explain, but her eyes, she just looked so worried. And she kept touching my hand. And then my mom, who's on speaker, she's like, Nyala, which if any of you guys don't know, my mom is a cancer survivor. So she survived breast cancer. And so she's experienced getting news like that. You know what I mean? So my mom is like, Nyala, mind you, COVID is happening. No family could be there. My husband could not come into the ER pretty much from 7 o'clock in the morning. All day I was by myself. He stayed outside every single hospital in the car, but he could not come inside. So I was by myself. So she's like, well, Miss Thorpe, my gut, this was her exact words, is telling me that you have the type of cancer that we can treat. And she started to go into the explanation of different types of leukemia, right? And when you hear leukemia, you think death sentence, okay? If you think of leukemia, and I'm gonna tell you why, because, and again, this is my first time knowing anything about this, right? So my mom had breast cancer and my biological dad had lung cancer. So they had cancer that I call focal, where you can have a surgery and cut it out. Does that make sense? But leukemia is blood cancer. So that means that it's running through your whole entire body. And that is the reason why it's hard to beat, to treat. Does that make sense? So she's telling me all these different types of leukemia, which ones is the ones where, you will have a certain amount of time to live, and then which one is the one that they have good survival rate and blah, blah, blah. But she said, I can't tell you definite, Miss Thorpe, because, we have to do further testing. So I can't tell you definite which one you have, but I'm hoping, this was her exact words, but I'm hoping that you have one that we called APML. Okay, so that stands for acute. Don't get me, I ain't even getting in all the terms because again, I'm new. I just started studying this stuff. I don't know everything about what I have, right? So she's like, I'm hoping that you have this because if you do, it's so treatable. Okay, but I can't tell you definite. So I'm going to walk with you upstairs. Is it okay? We're going to take you to the oncology floor, right? So now I'm going from the ER to upstairs. I'm starting to feel the shivering that I felt when she told me the news. I'm feeling it right now. I don't know why, because I've already been dealing with this since the 13th of April. So I processed this, and I wanted to be able to process this before telling you guys exactly what was going on with me. You know what I'm saying? So she walks with me upstairs. We get to the oncology floor. We get in the room. Again, everything is going fast. They're putting in the stuff on my hand for the vitals, the machines, everything. And she's still talking to me. So she says, we're going to have to do a bone marrow biopsy. And once we do that, then we'll be able to tell you definitive what type of leukemia you have. Right? And up to now, I'm still like, okay, no problem. Cool. So now the doctor comes. Yes, Dr. Bender. He came that same night. It's like 10 at night. The doctor comes. His eyes look just like Dr. McBride. Because again, everyone has on masks. So I could only see their eyes. And I was just reading so much. So I kept saying to him, man, God, y'all look worried. Y'all look worried, right? And instantly I started praying. Instantly. And that's one of the lessons I want to talk about. There's a couple of things I want to share with you guys. But instantly I started praying. I'm like, God, please help that I got the one that's curable. Please help that help me that I got the one that I could fight. Make me strong to just go through this, right? And these are things that I'm saying in my head. And so Dr. Bender lets me know that they're going to start me off on chemo pills right away. So I literally started chemo the minute they got me in there. The same day I got in April 12th, April 13th, I started chemo right away. But they started with the pills. And then the next day I did the biopsy. They did the biopsy. And guys, this is where you got to rejoice, because after the bone marrow biopsy, they let me know that I had APML, which is the only leukemia that's curable. Come on, just give me some hearts. Because that right there is something to be grateful for, right? I have the only leukemia that's curable, 95 to 98% survival rate. So now I'm like, okay, God, thank you. Let's go. I'm with you. Whatever you want. Tell me what you want me to do. I'm like overjoyed. You're not supposed to be overjoyed when you got cancer, but I'm overjoyed because the type that I have can be fought, right? So right away, they start treatment. And again, I'm taking 2 types of chemo. So they have chemo pills that I have to take, and then the actual chemo. So like you can actually see that I have a port. I couldn't cover it because I can't wear long sleeves for a long time. And so they started the chemo right away. So then the next thing is that I had a fear. And again, I'm going to go to what I want you to take from this, but I'm just giving you like my story first of what's happening. And then I'll tell you internally, like what changes mindset wise. So, it was just one thing after the other. I don't even think I could remember every test. I just got poked, blood. They were so scared. Let me tell you why. Because with the type of leukemia that I have, the first 7 days is critical. All right? That's where they would lose most people, because you could be bleeding internally. I was bleeding in my eye. Some people bleed other places, right? And so you could bleed out. I just want to explain to you that blood cancer is two things happening. Number one, you have no immune system, okay? So you can't fight off infection. A cold could be it for me, right? So that's number one. It's the white blood cells which fights off sicknesses and infection. And when you have leukemia, it's basically saying that your white blood cells are staying as babies. They're not maturing to be able to fight off infection. So that's the first part of it. And then the second part of it is that you could bleed out because you don't clot. Does that make sense? So like when you get a cut, you know how you start to clot, and that's how you stop bleeding? Well, when you have leukemia, you don't clot. So that's how you end up bleeding out, okay? And so the first 7 days is the most critical. And that's the reason why everything went so fast. And they started me on treatment right away. I didn't even know I was on treatment. I gotta be honest with you guys. When I heard on the second day that the pills they gave me was chemo pills, I was like, wait, yes, Margaret, low platelets. My white blood cell count was 1 point something. My hemoglobin was like, they don't even know how I was walking around. It was like 5 point something or 4 point something was my hemoglobin. My platelets, which normal platelets is for a person's body, is supposed to be like over what I think is 300,000 and all of that. Well, my platelets was like in the 14,000 range. They don't know how I was walking around. And I'm going to give you some back stuff, because once I figured out what was happening, I started to realize, even when I was in Vegas a month ago, there were symptoms, but I didn't know, right? So anyway, I'll go to that in a minute. So anyway, the chemo started right away, and now I had another fear, because all you hear about chemo is, and I'm just want to tell y'all how God works. I had another fear, because everything that you hear about chemo is you're going to be sick. You know, just the sickness part of it is scary. Guys, I've been on chemo since April 14th, and I have not got sick once. It's just been tiredness, like extreme tiredness. Chemo makes you very tired. But in terms of sickness, I don't know what's to come. I'm not saying that I won't have bad days, but I can tell you that from the 14th of April, and let me tell you something else. With other cancers, chemo is like every other week or every 3 weeks. You have your chemo session. But with blood cancer, chemo is every single day. I have been having poison, because that's what chemo is. It's called arsenic. When you hear arsenic, what does that sound like? Poison. I have been having that pumped into me every single day since April 14th up until this morning. Every day. So, and I haven't got sick. My spirit, I just felt so strong. I just felt like if I had this instant faith. And the reason why I'm calling it instant faith is because this whole situation made me realize that I really didn't have a relationship with God. Yes, I'm a Christian. I was raised, my parents are hardcore Adventists. I was raised in the church. I love God. I know of God, all of that. I pray. But to have a personal relationship with him, I cannot say I've had that. And now I do. And that's like the first thing that I want to bring across. Don't wait until stuff start happening to you to want to call on God. Don't wait until you're sick to want to call on God. He needs to be a part of your life every day. And I'm being honest because a lot of you, you know God and you love God, and yes, you're Christians and all of that. But do you really have a real relationship with him? Do you pray to him every day? Do you read and study your Bible? Are you living the life that he wants you to live? Because I wasn't. I'm just letting y'all know I wasn't. I was all into business and I want to be this leader and I want to become a millionaire. I know that I'm supposed to go to church every week. I haven't been in church in months, probably a year. You know, sending the kids to church because I know they got to go, but not me not going. You know, getting up in the morning and I know that I'm supposed to read my Bible and I'm supposed to have my time with him. But instead of that, I'm on podcasts, learning about sales pages and marketing and all of this. And I did not have the relationship that I was supposed to have with him. That's the first thing that I recognized when this whole thing happened. I ain't never prayed so much in my life. I ain't never prayed so much in my life. And it was like God just kept blessing me through this whole process. Sending the right nurses, sending the right doctors, putting me in the right situation where I could get the care that I needed. I feel like right now, guys, okay, God doesn't cause sicknesses. The devil does. But God allows certain things to happen in your life to bring you closer to him. Does that make sense? And I feel like if that's what's happening with me, I feel like if I need to get rid of a lot of anger that I was holding on to, I feel like if I needed to, you know, like I said, have that relationship with him, I feel like if I need to learn patience, I feel like if I need to learn that he controls it all, because I am somebody that takes things on and feel like I can control everything, and I couldn't control anything. I was told that I have leukemia, and I couldn't control what type of leukemia I was gonna have. You know, then when they did the biopsy, I couldn't control what results were gonna come. I couldn't control anything. I couldn't control how the chemo was going to start affecting my body. I couldn't control anything. Then on top of that, while I'm in the hospital, you know, my son, he wasn't going to school, and I found out that none of his assignments was getting done. That became something, and I got all upset. And then I had this moment, and I was like, okay, God, I get it. Please just talk to my son. Please just get him to tell him something, whisper something in his ear and tell him to do his assignments, because I couldn't control it. I'm in the hospital. I couldn't control what was happening at home. I couldn't control any of it. So I feel like if that's, you know, the one lesson that I got from this, and the one thing that I really, really want to make sure that I get across to people who follow me and all of you who've been praying for me, supporting me, is that don't wait until things happen to have a relationship with God. Funny thing is, last Saturday, I went to church online with my mom, and she goes to this church on YouTube. And there was a Bible verse that it's so funny how when you're listening to sermons, they're always like talking to you. There was this Bible verse where, and I don't remember where it is in the Bible, but it was basically saying that, you know, don't try to switch up like you're godly when stuff is happening, because God knows. And I remember calling my mom after the sermon and saying to my mom, I hope God don't think that I'm just turning into this hardcore Christian because I'm sick. Like, I'm so transparent right now. These are the feelings that I have been going through every day with this whole experience. I also have learned so far that the things that we stress about, come on, man, the things that we get mad about, the feelings that we hold on to, it means nothing when you get news like this. It means nothing. I think about my sister, for example. Many of you probably don't even know I have a little sister. And our relationship has always been strained. And since this whole diagnosis, this is the most we've talked. Right? I think of my husband, which I hope he's not mad. He won't get mad at this because it's just this is my truth, okay? I think of my husband who, for the last year, it's been rocky. And instantly, he was the husband that God expected him to be. Instantly. It was like all our problems went out the window. All the things that I was mad about and everything, it just went out the window. That's the second thing that I would say I have learned from this whole situation. I know my battle has just been started. It's just getting started. The first cycle of chemo is 30 days, give or take, every single day. And the goal for the first cycle, which is what I'm in right now, the goal is to get you in remission. So at the end of the first cycle, they'll do another biopsy of the bone marrow. And the goal and what they're looking for is to see that there's no more leukemia in the bone marrow. But then I have my second cycle, which is 8 months. And I will be doing chemo 1 month on, 1 month off for 8 months after, for the second cycle. And that's to get you to the cure. That's to get you cured. So this is a long journey for me. So some of you saw that I commented and I said, keep praying for me. It's not over yet, but I'm stable enough and I'm home now. But keep praying, right? Because this is going to be a battle, right? But for some reason, I just feel so strong. Like I can't even front. I just feel strong. I feel like if this is just another thing that I have to go through, I feel like if everything that I've been through in my life has prepared me for this, yeah. So when I was in Vegas, I had two things going on. I remember when I was getting dressed, I saw some black and blues on my leg, and I went to Vegas with a client. And I remember saying to her, Andrea, do you see this? I didn't even hit myself. What is this? Right? That was the first thing. And again, these things are happening and you're not even paying attention to it. And then the second thing that happened in Vegas is I was really tired. And I remember one day I actually told Andrea, listen, I don't care if I go to the conference late. I'm going to sleep in. Because I was really tired. And when your blood is so low, you're really, really tired. I didn't know that these things were happening. And I didn't know what it was. But all of this was happening, and these were all signs that, something was going on in my body. I thank God that the doctor that helped me prescribed the steroids, because what the doctor said is the steroids accelerated what was happening. So that's the reason why once I took the second dosage of the steroids, the nerve behind my eye popped. So like right now, and that's one of the reasons for you guys who messaged me, I'm not ignoring you. I just can't see that well. And so that's the reason why I have not had the time to sit down and go through all the messages. So most people, I've been telling them to voice note me instead of typing, because it's kind of hard when you don't have all your vision. And so the steroids accelerated what was happening, and that's how I started bleeding in the back of my eye. And if that didn't happen, I would have still been home because I was so scared for COVID that I was refusing to go to the ER. So that whole loss of vision thing is really what pushed me to go to the ER. And if I didn't go to the ER, I would not even know that this is what 76% of my blood was leukemia cells. 76%. Okay? Like I said, no platelets, hemoglobin low, 5 point something. I've had at least 13 transfusions since the 13th of April. I've had platelets every day, and it's still low. Okay, it's still low. As of today, my hemoglobin is at 9, which is good. It's getting up there. And my platelets is at, what did they say this morning? I think it's 37,000. The normal, I think, is like 300,000. All right. So I'm off, but I'm better than when I first got started. There's been a lot of blessings. And I want you guys to not only pray and say, you know, God heal Nyala, but thank him for me. Because 2 days ago, the doctor told me that I have 0% leukemia cells in my blood. Okay? 0%. So from the 13th until now, I went from 76% of my blood having leukemia cells to 0%. Now, they have not checked the bone marrow yet. Like I said, that's the last thing they're going to do at the end of the cycle, to make sure that there's no leukemia in the bone marrow. But my blood is 0%. My neutrophils, which is your white blood cells, they're maturing. And they're seeing the numbers. It's happening so fast. Like, this is a miracle right in front of me. Do you understand? I told you. The devil attacks God's people. But sometimes God allows things to happen to bring you closer to him and to show you what having true faith in him really means. And this is what I'm experiencing. It was hard to have to tell my children over video chat, because I wasn't going to tell them, because I figured in a few days I would be home. But when they told me that they didn't know when I would get home, I felt like I had to tell them. And so I told them over the video chat, and that was a experience in itself. But my kids, they're just as strong as me. They're just as strong as me. They might have showed emotion when they got off the phone, but they did not show it on the phone. They were just like, you know, when I came home, Asia had everything ready, everything clean, everything. She took care of her brother. I mean, just, you know. So what does this have to do with you? Like I said, number one, don't wait until things happen to you to have your relationship with God. Don't wait until you can't pay your bills to get on your knees and pray and ask for blessings. You know, this is time. This is the time where everything that's happening around us in the world right now, this is the time where you really need to have that relationship with him, right? The second thing is, you know, I see a lot of people, they're, you know, really running annoyed because they're in quarantine, scared, just a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions around what's happening in the world. But I feel like what happened to me, it just shows you that life is still happening. Life is still happening in the midst of all of this, right? And your situation can always be worse, right? So, like I said, when the doctors came in and said that I had leukemia, you know, it could have been a different diagnosis. They could have been telling me that I had the leukemia that cannot be cured. They could have been telling me how long I had to live. So it could have been worse. And I think that that's another thing that kept me so strong throughout this whole thing. It's like, okay, God, thank you. Right? Thank you, because this could have been a whole lot worse. And I could have been telling you guys something different here. Right? So never, like I wrote in my post the other day, that you always want to look at the positive throughout the situation. And I know sometimes when things are happening and life changes for me, like in an instant, the way it did, sometimes you may think, why me? Sometimes you may think, what else can I take? But I encourage you to look at the positive, because there is light in every situation. There is light in every situation. My light right now, I believe that this whole situation is going to help me in terms of my relationship with God, but it's also going to help me in terms of how I talk about him, because I know him, and I have this platform, right? And again, I did not realize the amount of impact I had until all of this happened. I mean, I know I'm the bomb and everything, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't know how much impact I really had. And I want to now not only use my platform to help you guys with growing businesses and, securing your financial future, but I also want to share this message of him, of God, and his power, and what it means to truly have faith and trust him. So things are going to change. If you haven't seen that already, things are going to change with how I show up. And I feel like this is him also giving me, like Margaret just said, hey, Margaret. Hey, Connie, darling. How are you? Like Margaret just said, it's my testimony. I have to use this testimony to share his message. That's what this is about for me. Right? And so I know that, you guys are going to see a lot of changes in me, because I believe that that's what my true purpose is now. Now that this is all happening, I believe that my purpose is to share what I'm, and that's the reason why the only reason why I didn't tell you guys what exactly was happening is because I wanted to get home. I wanted to get stable and I wanted to get home. But I knew that this wasn't something I was going to keep a secret. I knew that I was going to share this experience so I can encourage whoever I can. And I'm going to take you guys on this journey with me. And I'm hoping that through my own testimony and what you see happening in my life, it will be a wake-up call for you. Sorry about that. I'm hoping that it will be a wake-up call for you, because it's sure a wake-up call. And I can tell you guys something. This can happen to anybody. It has happened to people. Like I said, my mom had cancer. My bio dad had cancer. My great-grandmother had cancer. It can happen to anyone. And I don't want you to wait until it's too late to have your relationship with him. The second thing is, I don't want you to wait until it's too late to take care of yourself. Because I am a workaholic, and I have been so focused on becoming a millionaire that I lost sight of what's truly important. And I know that a lot of you are on the same path. But let me tell you something. When they gave me that diagnosis, the amount of zeros in my bank account didn't matter. When it was time for them to discharge me and the insurance started giving problems, it didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was taking care of myself and my relationships with my mom, with my family, my husband, my children, my friends, like you guys. I have one friend who's a registered nurse, Tina, and we've been friends for so many years since I lived in Philly. And, you know, when I started this whole business journey of mine, which I've been in business for a long time, but I got real serious in 2012. And when 2012 came and I decided that I wanted to be a leader and this is the path for that I was going to take, I remember like months could go by and we wouldn't speak. 3 years went by and I didn't even see her. And we've spoken almost every day since this started. So I realized that what's important is one, taking care of yourself. One, your relationship with God. Two, taking care of yourself. Three, your relationships with the people around you. Because money, it matters not. Okay? Yes, you want to have security. Yes, you want to leave things for your family. All of that, yes, is important. But when you get news like this, it really doesn't matter. And I lost sight of that. So this is my journey. This is my new normal. Chemo is every day. I was at chemo from 8 this morning till 3 in the afternoon. And again, because it's blood cancer, it's very different from other cancers that you may have heard of. Then I have something going on with the heart now. So it's different things that's happening. But I am strong and I'm in good spirits. They feel like my vision will come back as I go through my treatment. But as of right now, I have little vision in the right eye. But it's all right. Because I got 20/20 in the other one. So you see what I mean when I say you have to find the light in these situations. Cancer feeds off of 3 things: stress, sugar, and smoke. At least that's what I say. Okay. And I'm not a doctor, but it's what I say. And I believe that people getting news like this, it could be very stressful. And so all I kept thinking in my head, thank you, Vanessa. All I kept thinking in my head is, you can't stress this, Nyala. You just have to face this head on. You and God, you're going to face this head on. And so that's what I'm doing. And thank God, again, I just want to let you guys know that I do have the cancer that can be cured. Thank God. And they have a 95 to 98% survival rate. Thank God for that. And so that means that I'm going to do my part and I'm going to let him do the rest. Right? And I just want to encourage you all to use my experience as your wake-up call. All right? Use my experience as your wake-up call. Okay? Keep praying for me. Those of you who've been on your knees, I know you have. I know it's been thousands of people praying. Thousands. From my online family to my church family. I mean, in Brooklyn, everybody, I'm in prayer lines. Man, I am blessed and highly favored. Blessed and highly favored. So keep praying for me. And that's it. All right, let me see. So I just want to make sure I say hello to everyone. Hey, B. Jacqueline Jeter. Hey, Victoria, darling. How are you? Precious, how are you, Keisha? Hey, Melanie. Hey, Dr. Missy. Thank you for your text, your encouragement. Therese Chantel, thank you for offering to help me. Sherry Somers, Mikkel, Dr. Ranelli. Oh my God, if I just would call the names, okay? Sorry for saying God's name in vain. See what's happening? Like, this has been happening to me. This is real right now. If I could just call all the names of the support that I have, I'm just so grateful. So grateful. Hey, Anita. Hey, Renee, darling. Hey, Tamisha, how are you? Let's see. Hey, Lottie, Jasmine. Thank you for your messages. Tamisha, thank you for your messages. Hey, Beth. I think I said, hey, Jonica. Okay. All right. So now, Akila, I don't want to keep going because my eyes is hurting. But I just want to make sure that I got everyone. Hey, Andrea, who's been calling every day. My clients, amazing support. Okay. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for your continued prayers. Thank you so much for share. Anita, yes, them flowers definitely did. Definitely. Thank you so much for allowing me to share. And hopefully I will see you guys soon. I'm only working as needed. My team is taking things over. I am not working like I used to. But I'm working. Okay. I'm working, but not like I used to. So just, keep out for me, look out for me. I'll be back soon. And thank you so much, everyone. I'll talk to you guys soon.